Hey, Andy, we have one question since you and your lovely wife invited us into your home here in Potomac, Maryland. We've noticed that the house is crawling with pictures of your lovely family and your many grandchildren. And so one question we've been thinking of is if you wanted to be remembered by your children, what do you think from your life or your how you lived is the most important or things you'd like them to remember you by?
Well, that we were very good grandparents to our grandchildren.
Hmm.
Uh, we must have done some good with our son because he became the head of oncology and hematology at the University of Maryland Med School. And it was wonderful having the grandchildren that we have growing up. They loved coming to spend a week or 2 weeks with us.
Hmm.
And it was a good time for me to talk, like especially with the two boys. And some of the things I would tell them. If you start a job, complete it, or make us a good, strong effort. Don't let it hang. And the other thing I remember mentioning to them, I said, when they were in school, especially in high school, I said, if you at least try to do some studying, I believe you can feel sure you would pass, do better than 50% of the class. And if you put the effort that you really could do, you could come out
The best.
okay. And our oldest grandson was the valedictorian in high school, and I had I and my wife attended, and they had various speakers. Then I think the superintendent of the school system was going to give a talk after my grandson. And our grandson gave such a fantastic speech. You could drop a pin in that auditorium. And when the superintendent came up to give his talk, he said, I had a talk written that I was going to deliver. And he said, I'm tearing it up after listening to Dave's presentation. And he talked extemporaneously, off the cuff, because what he had written he didn't think would blend in with our grandson's speech.
Hmm.
And that would make anybody very, very proud.
Of course.
And then the other grandson, Betty may have mentioned it to you, Frank. We were together, and he said he's on a competitive, what do you call it, negatives and positives.
Oh, a debate. A
Debating
debate
team.
team. Yeah.
And he said this subject's going to be about nuclear power. And so Betty said, why didn't you take Matthew over in the corner, separated from everybody else, and talk to him about nuclear power? And at the time we had the meltdown at the
TMI,
3 Mile
Island.
in Pennsylvania. So that was in many people's minds, worried about nuclear power. And so I had to explain to him, when somebody brings it up, don't try to come up with an answer. I agree that it was a very bad thing to happen, and that it was not really the fault of a nuclear reactor. It was some mechanical problem that they didn't put a safety system on, where the maintenance person closed down a pump, thinking that there were 2 pumps in the operation available, which they weren't. And that led, with only 1 pump being available, and led to the meltdown. And told him some things, how to approach comments. And after it was all and done, he came back. He says, "Grandpa, we really beat him." Because taking an approach, agree with what he took place, and go from there. And they were wonderful grandchildren to work with. And a lot of times, children like to talk to somebody else besides their parents, because they get the parent run all the time. And if you have something repeated many times, you like somebody to talk to, like grandparents. I think grandparents can make large contributions to their grandchildren. And I grew up never seeing or knowing my grandchildren.
Parents, grandparents.
Grandparents.
Right.
And so I never got to enjoy that because they were remained in Europe.
Well, you know, I feel that great grandchildren come from great parents, great grandparents,
Well,
and I think that's you and Elizabeth. You know, so it's
well,
really great to hear this.
I conducted myself such a manner that I wanted my son and grandchildren to have a great deal of respect. And I heard stories like in the Catholic school, nun said to students, well, if your parents you use some words and you come to school, I guess you can use it in school. And this meant using cuss words sometimes and whatnot. And when the nun did that and the child came home and told the parents that we can use any word we hear my mother and father use. And that's a good lesson.